Infertility treatment? No way, we don't need that. All you need to do is take care of the household chores for the family. What? That's... I turned pale at Jack's unexpected words. It was as if he was treating me like a mere housekeeper. I spent every day holding these feelings of frustration. Then, while cleaning Jack's room, I discovered something. It was a childbirth DVD of a woman I didn't know. Who is this woman? As I was at a loss for what to do, a man named Michael appeared. I enlisted Michael's help to expose Jack's infidelity in front of our relatives. In our family, it's a tradition to gather at the main house on New Year's Eve. I made a proposal to my in-laws to get their cooperation. Can we hold this year's end-of-year gathering in the annex where we live? After I explained everything step by step, my in-laws agreed. And so, my revenge against Jack began. I am Maria, a 40-year-old housewife, married for 3 years. I married at 37 and wanted to have children soon. However, even after 3 years, I was unable to get pregnant. I married Jack, 3 years my senior, through a matchmaking arrangement. Our family is well known locally. It was a bit strange that Jack, the son of such a wealthy family, remained single until 40. But I thought we got along well and were compatible. That's why I decided to marry him without hesitation. After marriage, we started living in an annex on my in-laws' property. Eventually, we were supposed to live with my in-laws, but that seemed natural since I married the only son of a good family. My in-laws cherished me as their daughter-in-law. My father-in-law is a bit difficult, but my mother-in-law is very kind. So, I thought we would get along well. Then, as Jack wished, I quit my job and devoted myself to helping out with family chores. I've always liked helping others. I was supposed to start a happy married life, just like in my dreams. However, about a year into the marriage, Jack started to change. Initially, Jack was kind. But recently, his attitude towards me became indifferent. When he came home from work, he wouldn't even say I'm home. Instead, he would say, "Wash this and iron it," handing me his crumpled shirt. The only time he talked to me at home was to give me chores. Did I do something to offend him? While thinking this, I reflected on my actions since getting married. But I couldn't think of anything that would have angered Jack. Still concerned, I decided to talk to my mother-in-law. Jack has been cold to me lately. He doesn't talk to me except when giving chores. Did I do something wrong? When I asked, my mother-in-law smiled kindly and answered, "Jack is just like his father. My husband was the same after we got married. Maybe Jack, like his father, finds it embarrassing to talk to his wife. So, it's nothing to worry about? Well, isn't that just the way it is with marriage? As time goes by, you'll come to understand each other better." Hearing my mother-in-law say that, I felt a bit relieved. My in-laws have a very good relationship now. So, I think that if Jack and I are married for many years, we'll get along well too. That's what I thought, feeling reassured. But first, if we have a child, maybe Jack will change. I've always liked kids and want to have my own soon. For that reason, I check my basal body temperature every morning and look for the best days to conceive. I've also been living a healthy lifestyle to increase my chances of getting pregnant. Still, after 3 years of marriage, there was no sign of pregnancy. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I tried to discuss it with Jack. "Hey, Jack. We've been married for 3 years but still haven't had a child. I'm thinking of getting it checked out." "Huh? What are you going to check?" Jack asked with an indifferent face. Still, I mustered up the courage to ask. "That's why I mean maybe one of us has an issue. I'm thinking of getting tested or, undergoing fertility treatment." When I bravely brought up the topic of fertility treatment, Jack looked displeased. And then said something outrageous. "Infertility treatment? No way, we don't need that. All you need to do is take care of the household chores for the family." "What? That's..." I turned pale at Jack's unexpected words. It was as if he was treating me like a mere housekeeper. "Jack, don't you want children?" Your father expects an heir, after all. When I said that, Jack looked a bit troubled. It'll work out somehow. What do you mean, somehow? I asked, puzzled by Jack's words, but he didn't respond. An heir will work out somehow. I couldn't stop thinking about what Jack had said. And the meaning of those words would later be revealed in an unexpected way. I spent every day holding these feelings of frustration. Day after day, cooking, laundry, cleaning, it's a never-ending cycle. I tell myself it's natural since I'm a daughter-in-law, but the emptiness builds up. Today, I was cleaning Jack's study. There are countless books lined up here. I had to carefully remove the dust accumulated between them. Next to the bookshelf, there's a large CD rack. Since there's a gap, I have to take everything out to clean inside properly. I carefully removed the items, keeping them in order. It looked like there were DVDs on the top shelf. When I tried to take out about 20 at once, I fumbled, and they all fell down. Oh no! I have to put everything back in order. All the DVDs had fallen out of their cases, and I couldn't tell which belonged where. Jack is meticulous, so he labels both the discs and their cases. I started comparing the labels on the discs with those on the cases. Among them, one caught my eye. I didn't know the content, but it read November 30th, 2022, birth of Ethan. Ethan? Who's that? When I saw that, I remembered Jack's words. An heir will work out somehow. Thinking there might be a connection, I decided to play the DVD. I took it to the living room with the TV and put it in the DVD player. Then, I pressed the play button. What appeared was a dark room with only a bed that looked like a hospital examination table. A woman in her early 20s was lying on the bed. She was smiling at the camera. In a large pajama-like outfit, her belly was noticeably large. Apparently, she was pregnant. The woman was smiling calmly but suddenly started to moan in pain. It hurts! Jack, rub my back! Jessica, just a bit more endurance. You can do it. Could this be labor? No, what shocked me more was the man's voice rubbing her back. This voice, is it Jack? Indeed, the pregnant woman called him by that name. The pregnant woman was in apparent pain. I couldn't tell, having no experience, but it seemed like she was about to give birth. So, it was a labor waiting room. Who is this woman? She kept calling Jack's name through her labor pains. And why was Jack there by her side? After a while, a few women in white coats, who looked like midwives, entered. They were encouraging the pregnant woman to breathe properly. Then, she was moved to the delivery table, with Jack following. The next scene, after a pause in filming, was graphically showing the childbirth. The woman, Jessica, continued to call out Jack's name through her pain. Jessica, you're doing great. The head's coming out. Just a little more. Jack's excited voice echoed as well. Tears started flowing from my eyes. Jack had been cheating on me. The labels date was exactly a year ago. This means Jack had been cheating for almost 2 years. Could this DVD be conclusive evidence? But this alone doesn't prove the child is Jack's. In such a case, I would want to consult a lawyer or a private investigator. However, Jack only gives me enough money for living expenses, so I don't have much of my own. As I was at a loss for what to do, the doorbell rang. Hearing at the monitor, I saw a man in his late 20s standing there. Hello, who is it? My name is Michael. Is Jack at home? The man, with a troubled look on his face. No, my husband hasn't come home yet. I see. Excuse me, but you are his wife, aren't you? May I have a moment of your time? I was curious about the man with the concerned look on his face. When I opened the front door, he respectfully handed me his business card and bowed. His name was Michael. For a moment, I felt like I had heard that name before. Actually, I wanted to ask your husband about a woman named Jessica, one of his subordinates. I reacted to the name Jessica. It was the same name as the pregnant woman from earlier. Is this Jessica, by any chance, the woman who gave birth about a year ago? To my question, Michael showed a look of surprise. Why do you ask that? Did your husband tell you about acknowledging the child? What do you mean by acknowledging? What's that about? As I pressed for answers in shock, Michael covered his mouth with his hands, as if he had said something he shouldn't have. I'm so sorry. While apologizing, he looked like he had indeed said something regrettable. I calmed Michael down and asked him to talk more. It's okay. I think I have a rough idea of what's going on. So, I won't be surprised by anything you tell me. Could you please explain? I decided to invite him in. I offered him tea, but Michael didn't touch it and sat solemnly. Then he said, almost in a whisper, she's my ex-girlfriend. Wait, so you broke up because she cheated with my husband? No, it's not like that. I was confused by Michael's response. Normally, if a girlfriend cheated with her boss, one would get angry and break up. Or confront the cheating partner. But Michael didn't seem like he was in such a state. But Jessica was pregnant with Jack's child, right? How can you say that's not the reason for your breakup? It's different. Jessica's child is actually mine. I was taken aback by Michael's sudden loud declaration. More than that, what did he mean by the child not being Jack's? You just said that Jack acknowledged the child, right? Does he know it's not his child? I don't know about that. She insists it's definitely Jack's child. But do you have proof that it's your child? Yes, I do. Michael asserted confidently. He had visited to see the child, Ethan, after his birth. He said that Ethan, as a baby, looked exactly like his own baby photos. That's why he tried to reconcile with Jessica. However, Jessica, uninterested in a life with financially unstable Michael, refused to get back together. No, it wasn't just that. Jessica insisted that Ethan was not Michael's son, but definitely Jack's. She had been two-timing them. Since then, she had Jack acknowledge Ethan and was receiving child support and living expenses from him. Jack would get angry when I asked how much he earned, replying, "Why do you need to know that?" Now it made sense. He didn't want the amount of his salary known, for that reason. I felt overwhelmed with a sense of helplessness. Michael, unable to give up on his child, had hired a private investigator. And after thorough investigation, it turned out Ethan was indeed his son. Ma'am, even if Ethan isn't your husband's child, the fact remains he cheated. And he's been silently providing money to Jessica. That can't be overlooked, right? Of course not. We agreed to join forces and settle this matter once and for all. And now, it's December. In our family, it's a tradition to gather at the main house on New Year's Eve. I made a proposal to my in-laws to get their cooperation. Can we have this year's end-of-year gathering at the annex where we live? Why's that? You know our family's gatherings involve a lot of people, Maria. Yes, I know. Preparing the meal is a big task. To get their cooperation, I had to tell the truth. I started by telling my in-laws what Michael had shared, to avoid shocking them suddenly. Then, I decided to show them the DVD. My father-in-law, eyes widening, watched in disbelief and uttered, "What is this?" My mother-in-law was also deeply shocked to see Jack accompanying an unknown woman during childbirth. I explained the plan that Michael and I had devised and asked for their help. All right. I don't know how this will go, but let's cooperate. Yes, we need to make things clear with Jack. Having my in-laws' support was reassuring. All that was left was to wait for New Year's Eve. A month passed, and it was New Year's Eve night. Our relatives gathered at our house. In the annex's living room, we set up a long table, barely big enough, and arranged the food on it. The relatives all wondered, why are we gathering here? Before we began eating, my father-in-law stood up to address everyone. Good evening, thank you for joining our family's traditional gathering. It's a bit cramped, but today, we have something important to show you, which is why we're gathered here in the young couple's annex. We don't have the equipment to play this DVD back in the main house. When my father-in-law said that, I also stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, before we dine, please watch this video. I said this, turned on the TV, and started preparing the DVD player. What is it? Some interesting video? Jack asked me with a smirking expression, unaware of the fate that awaited him. As soon as I pressed play, Jack's face froze. Suddenly, the labor waiting room appeared, with Jessica lying down. Is this? Hey, stop it, Maria! The relatives around us began to murmur in confusion. What's this all about? Who's that pregnant woman? All eyes turned to Jack. Realizing the trouble, Jack frantically searched for the DVD player's remote. But anticipating this, I had hidden the remote. When Jack realized the remote was missing and approached the DVD player, my father-in-law held him back. Stop! Please stop! Jack struggled to stop the playback. But my father-in-law and I firmly restrained him. Jack, don't make it worse. Just watch quietly, Jack. Hearing his parents' words, Jack, almost in tears, fell silent. Meanwhile, the childbirth DVD continued playing. Is this Jack's secret child? Oh my! To think someone in our family has a mistress. If this gets out, we won't be able to show our faces around here. Amid the uproar, with some relatives crying, I addressed everyone to calm them down. Everyone, please calm down. This baby being born is not Jack's child. But Jack was there, right? The pregnant woman kept calling his name in pain. Everyone looked at me, confused. Jack was the most shocked of all. Maria, how did you know that? Oh? So, you knew it too? That he wasn't your child? When I pressed him, Jack covered his mouth with an awkward awe. Why did you acknowledge him if you knew he wasn't yours? And you've been paying child support every month. Well, that's... Jack, sweating on his forehead, was at a loss for words. Acknowledgement? Child support? And yet he's not your child? Explain that properly. Yeah. We can't accept this as it is. Everyone was accusing Jack in unison. But Jack himself couldn't seem to spit out the truth. My mother-in-law, unable to hold back any longer, prostrated herself in front of everyone, crying. Everyone, I am so sorry. It was my fault for not raising him right. While sobbing, I rubbed her back with both hands. No, it's not your fault. I am going to call someone who will testify now. That's right, I forgot. I'm sorry for losing my composure. My mother-in-law raised her tearful face. Jack, sensing something was off, confronted me. What's going on? What are you all planning? Quiet, Jack. This mess is your fault in the first place. Yes, even if the child isn't yours, the fact remains you cheated. The room fell silent at the in-laws' words. It was about time to make the call. I took out my phone and dialed someone. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. It was Michael, who had been waiting nearby. Behind Michael was Jessica, carrying Ethan. When I let them into the living room, the relatives started murmuring. Isn't that the pregnant woman from before? Yes, that's her. And this man, Michael, is the real father of the child. I introduced Michael to everyone as planned. Michael followed our plan perfectly, bringing Jessica with him. The plan was this. Michael went to Jessica and told her that Jack's family had found out about his secret child. He lied that Jack could no longer pay child support and was transferring custody to Michael. Believing this, Jessica would surely panic. So Michael said, I can't suddenly become a father, and suggested they come to our house to discuss child support. Normally, a mistress wouldn't come to the house. But Jessica seemed desperate for money. Thinking Jack would help her, she came. Because Michael knew how Jessica would think, he brought her here as planned. As expected, Jessica yelled at Jack on seeing him. What? You're not paying child support anymore? And even giving custody to this poor man is cruel. What? I didn't say any of that. Tricked you, Jessica. What? It was a lie? Yes. The part about my wife finding out is true. That's why you had to come here. To pay for your cheating and tricking us into child support. That's terrible. You tricked me. But it's true that I, Jack's wife, found out. So, it was necessary for you to come here. To make amends for cheating and deceitfully taking child support. Hearing my words, Jessica's face gradually turned pale. It's not a lie. Ethan is definitely Jack's child. That's right. Ethan is my son, and I plan to make him my heir. Jack defended Jessica, saying that. But the relatives were not going to stay quiet about such a claim. What? You were planning to make someone else's child our heir? My father-in-law shouted in anger, and everyone else joined in with their complaints. In the midst of this, Jack boldly stated, Maria can't have children. I'll divorce her, the useless wife, and remarry Jessica, who gave birth to my heir, even if he's not my child. The room went silent for a moment. Then, my mother-in-law clung to Jack and said, How can you abandon Maria, who has devoted herself as our daughter-in-law? That's too much, Jack. I have no choice. Dad always wanted an heir. No, I won't accept it. Don't you realize how much Maria wanted a child? I knew she consulted you about it. And yet, what did you do? Told her to just do the housework, treating her like a mere housekeeper. I was moved to tears by my father-in-law's passionate defense. Why would Dad know all that? Did you snitch, Maria? Idiot. We live right next door. Everyone hears your voice. And I won't recognize that heir. Hearing this, Michael also spoke up to Jack. Jack. About this heir thing. There is evidence that Ethan isn't your child. Evidence? I hired a private investigator to look into it. Remember when you were at a bar, chatting happily with the woman sitting next to you? So what? At that time, you were sweating profusely, and that woman wiped your forehead with her handkerchief. Turns out, she was from the private investigation agency. When I went to Jessica's place, I secretly borrowed Ethan's pacifier and had a paternity test done with it. You realize now? You're not Ethan's father. And by the way, Ethan's blood type is AB, you should have known that since you were there. Maria, what's your husband's blood type? O type, so there's no way they can be related. Jack said he was a type when filing the acknowledgement, knowing Jessica is B type. For the record, I'm a type. With these facts revealed, Jack nearly broke into tears. I got tested. The results said it was highly unlikely for me to father a child. Hearing this unexpected fact from Jack, I couldn't hide my surprise. Why didn't you tell me earlier? We could have sought treatment. I was embarrassed. And with the neighbors watching, I couldn't go for treatment. So, I acknowledged Ethan. That's impossible now. Silently give back the custody to his real father, Michael. No! Stop it! Suddenly, Jessica, who had been silent, burst into tears. I wanted to bear Jack's child and become part of this family. I don't want this poor man. What? Who's poor? That's right. Michael isn't poor. Michael and I looked at Jessica as if mocking her. What are you talking about? Michael works at a small town factory with a low salary. Are you just pretending? At Jessica's loud voice, Ethan in her arms started crying. Michael quickly approached and embraced Ethan firmly. Poor thing. You're a mother, don't shout like that. There, good boy. As Michael soothed Ethan, the boy stopped crying and smiled. You can see Ethan knows his dad, even if they haven't lived together. And Jessica, Michael isn't just pretending. I handed Ethan to Michael, letting him explain further. I work at a subcontractor for my parents' company. What? What does that mean? Ever heard of M Corporation? Asked by Michael, Jessica opened her mouth in shock. That's the biggest local company. You mean you're related to that? that company is managed by my father. As his successor, I'm learning about the fieldwork at its subcontracting factory. Knowing this unexpected fact about Michael, Jessica was left gaping in surprise. Then, suddenly, she smiled happily and said, "Yay! So Ethan's dad is going to be the company president? Then I'll be the president's wife someday." Jessica, thinking such convenient thoughts, snatched Ethan from me. Hugging him tightly, she said, "Ethan, we'll live with Dad from now on." "No. I'll take Ethan, but I won't be with you. I'll raise him at my parents' home." That seemed only natural to me. However, Jessica, turning pale, desperately resisted. "Why? I'm his mother. Why would you do that?" "Of course. You've been nothing but lies, chasing after men with money. How can anyone trust you?" "No, I won't lie anymore. Please! Let me stay with Ethan. He needs me." Jessica looked at Michael pleadingly. But Michael's decision was unwavering. Ethan was even trying to look away from Jessica. She no longer had the right to be a mother. "Jessica, there's something you need to say first. You had an affair with your boss, and now his wife and relatives are here. Shouldn't you apologize?" Well, that's..." Jessica was at a loss, with the relatives watching. I seized the opportunity to confront her. "Well, regardless of whose child it is, your affair with Jack is a fact. We'll be demanding proper compensation for that." "No! I don't want to!" "What a shameless woman! Settle your dues properly." The relatives echoed the sentiment. "And of course, Jack, you'll be paying compensation too." I looked sternly at Jack. Then, my father-in-law also spoke to Jack. "Not just that. Having someone in our family causing such a scandal is a disgrace to us in the eyes of society. Therefore, Jack, you must leave our house. Yes, he's a disgrace to the family. Right. Leave now." The relatives' accusations made Jack shrink. Then, he looked at me with pleading eyes. "Maria, I was wrong. I'll pay the compensation. Please help me." I was speechless at his pathetic state. But Jack, undeterred, continued. "Wait, if I'm kicked out, you'll struggle too, right? So ask Dad to let me stay. He'll listen if you ask." "No, that's not necessary. I'll also leave after divorcing you," I firmly responded. Feeling relieved, I couldn't help but notice Jack's bewildered expression. "What are you talking about? How will you live if you leave? A housewife like you can't make it on her own." "No, that's fine." Michael suddenly interjected, surprising Jack even more. "Jack, didn't you know? Maria was the secretary to the president of my company before she got married. My dad still laments losing her. She was the best secretary he ever had. So, after the divorce, she'll work for us again." Yes, I had been the secretary to the president of M Corporation before getting married. Jack, who showed no interest in my job at the matchmaking meeting, had no idea. Michael never showed his face at the company when I was working there, so we didn't recognize each other. That's why when I first met Michael, his name sounded familiar, like I had heard it somewhere before. That's the situation, Jack. So please, divorce me. Maria was such a good daughter-in-law, but I understand. Miyoshi's president is a good acquaintance of mine, so we'll likely keep in touch with Maria. Yes, I want to keep in touch with Maria too. Thank you. I hope to continue our relationship. Tears in my eyes, I clasped hands with my in-laws. Then, Michael left with Ethan. Jessica stayed behind for negotiations on compensation. The same was true for Jack. We couldn't just let him leave without discussing compensation and property division, which lasted until morning. As a result of the discussions, we split the marital assets and Jack paid me a compensation for his infidelity. And so, Jack was disowned by his in-laws. Having never lived outside his family's property, Jack struggled even with the moving arrangements. Furthermore, his workplace's boss was acquainted with my former father-in-law. The rumor of his affair with Jessica, his subordinate, spread quickly. Needless to say, his colleagues' attitudes towards him changed for the worse. Jessica resigned early and returned to her parents' home. However, it turned out that her father, who also knew my former father-in-law, was furious about her affair with her boss and making another man acknowledge a child born from another relationship, and quickly kicked her out. Now, after paying me the compensation, Jessica is said to be working at a nightclub, her savings depleted. All this information came from my former father-in-law, with whom I still keep in contact. I was again amazed by the extent of his connections. Eventually, Jack, too, resigned from his job after much personal turmoil. He has since gone somewhere to look for work, but I have no idea where. As for me, I was rehired by M Corporation and am working as the president's secretary. Michael is still at the subcontracting factory. He says he wants to stay at his familiar workplace while Ethan is still a preschooler, ready to rush over if anything happens. Truly, he's a great hands-on dad. I had wanted children myself, but now I'm so fulfilled with my job, I think I'm okay without getting married again. However, about a year later, after Ethan started attending daycare, Michael was set to join the parent company. At first, he would be a trainee. Then one day, to my surprise, Michael proposed to me. I was genuinely shocked by the suddenness. Really? There's quite an age gap between us, are you sure? When I asked, Michael responded with a smile. I've decided ever since you got divorced. Ethan is attached to you, and besides, my dad says it has to be Maria. I know I'm younger, but please, will you marry me? Moved by Michael's sincerity, I was drawn to him. And so, we got married. Now, it's Michael, Ethan, and the new life growing inside me, a child from Michael and me. We're building a happy family together.